Hi, team. Welcome to another 10 Talks, another conversation with John as we are on the journey to winning well-being. And John, thank you so much for the gift of just these conversations.
Oh, pleasure, Carla. Absolute pleasure. And I've just got to highlight to you and your listeners that I've got a puppy at my feet and he's wanting to chew my feet. So if I jump sometimes, it's okay. Everything's all right.
Thank you for letting us know who's joining us today.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Well, so team, today's conversation is all about from change to champion. And we have been on this journey, really constant change, transformational change. Change has been the constant, no matter what season we're in, the gifts of just really adapting and aligning and trying something new. So today we're just going to go through a series of conversations about really winning strategies to set all of us up for basically being able to win our well-being. So John, thank you for your words of wisdom as we enjoy this conversation. And I want to start with anxiety to action. So as we move into whatever it is that's happening, we can have a sense of anxiety if we're fear-based or really anything new happening. And how do we really move from anxiety to action?
Yeah, look, that's a great question. And I think firstly, it's really important to draw a bit of a line. There's a thing called fight or flight. And it's a mechanism within our bodies that is designed to perhaps protect us or even save our lives when we're under threat. So let's just say, for example, you were living in the jungles of Africa and you were walking through the forest one day and you come across a very big cat and it's looking at you, licking its lips, and you're in danger. Well, within microseconds, your body starts releasing enormous amounts of adrenaline into your system. And what the adrenaline does, firstly, is it speeds up your heart rate to start to increase your capacity to push blood around the body. It starts to increase your respiration rate, so that you can get oxygen into that blood. It dilates the blood vessels in the legs and constricts the blood vessels up in the upper torso, so that all that blood can be directed towards your legs. And the last thing that happens is your bowels open up and you dump any excess baggage that you're carrying, so you're now ready to run for your life.
Wow. Thank you for that visual and just that setup.
And that's it. And what happens is you run for your life and one of two things happens. Either you get away, which means no more problems. And in the process of running so intensely, you've burned off all that excess adrenaline, so it no longer impacts your body. And if you don't get away, well, you get eaten and no more problems.
You got nothing to worry about, like exactly. Game over.
So either way, it's a sort of a positive outcome, right? But here's the problem. That when in our modern society, most of us travel through our life never ever having our physical safety threatened. And but what we do have threatened is our idea of ourselves, our anxiety, that persona that we create to represent us in the world, to tell the world that we're superhuman and we can do anything. And when something comes along where we all of a sudden can't do what we've presented that we can do, then all of a sudden that identity that we have, which some people might call an ego, all of a sudden succumbs to fight or flight. So you have those same adrenaline responses, but in this case, we don't run for our lives. And so that adrenaline consumes us, and that's what brings on massive anxiety. And that fear, that reactiveness, and we can't do anything about it. It seems because we feel like the humiliation or the intimidation we're about to face is as bad as death itself. And so the change that we need to make is we have to realize, number one, that our life's not in danger. We're still
Well,
going to
from
get
that
through.
perspective, yeah.
Yes. And now what we're facing is our own pretense, the little lies we've been telling ourselves about how good we are, about how wonderful we are, and we all do it. We all do it. And so it's just a little moment where if we actually allow ourselves to just feel the humiliation in the moment, oh golly, and we can tease ourselves, that'll switch the anxiety off. Have a laugh about it, and then decide what to do next from a different space.
Yeah, inserting humor is a huge winning strategy, not taking ourselves too seriously, really being able to be that human to human and just connect and having a human moment. We all have them. We might as well just claim it and learn through it.
Yeah, and it's like seriousness is a glue that clogs up your mind. And that's not mine. That was one of my teachers gave me that, but I went, oh my God, that's absolutely true. When you become overly serious, and it's very funny, I'll walk through a construction site and I'll see a couple of men there standing talking. They've got really intense looks on their faces. They're really, and I'll just walk over and say, do you need me to call an ambulance? And they'll look at me and they go, it was very serious, wasn't it? I say, yeah, it was very serious. And the thing is, you can be conscientious,
Right.
but you don't have to be serious.
And you can be competitively great from a sports perspective, and you can still enjoy the process of competing and really being for you and the joy of the competition.
Oh, yeah, you bet. I mean, some of my favorite sporting stories are very humorous. There was a pro football game here one day, and it was going to be a big clash. These two top teams, and everyone was gearing up for it. And one of the players from one team had previously had a bet socially about something with a player from the other team, and the other team won, and he owed him $10. So when they ran out in the field and they took up their position, he ran over to him and he pulled $20 out of his sock and he said, have you got change? Like they're about to go into this gladiator battle, but still had that moment to just have a bit of a tease and have a bit of a laugh. It's great.
Yeah. And it's amazing, when you smile, it relaxes every muscle in your body. It's actually the number one thing we can do that immediately releases so much stress, anxiety. So smiling is a winning strategy.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. And you can help other people by enticing them to smile. That is such an act of service.
Mm-hmm. And giving hope, just being there for others and getting out of self. If you're feeling anxious, could other people be feeling anxious as well? And how can your action be to really give hope and help in that fashion?
Exactly. And another really good tactic and strategy, this comes out of the work I did in the Avatar course, is making note of at least 10 things that would be much worse than this current situation. And it's like, and it's important to take this current situation, what's something else that could be worse, and think about that, and come back to this situation, what's something else. You don't sort of go down this gradient of worse, right? And that broadens your perspective out. You realize that actually, this is bad, but it's not that bad.
Yeah. And gratitude, another action that's a winning strategy, just focusing on, even if you're having a human moment, just being grateful for the fact that you're doing this, you're with people that love and care about you, and it's a chance to grow and just to learn through it.
Yeah. And, that's something I always feel in you, Carly. You did that one really well. I reckon. It's like you can feel the gratitude coming off you all the time. And it is so true. It's just, we forget how lucky we are and how fortunate we are. I mean, you just got to think about the poor people of Afghanistan right now, and you think the fear that must be running through them, the uncertainty, all of those marvelous women who started to step up in life and speak out a little bit. What's going to happen to them?
Right.
I don't know. I guess they don't know either, you know, so it's.
Yeah, really the
Mhm.
helplessness, right? I mean, just our hearts go out so much to anyone feeling helpless, because without the, I mean, hopeless, you know, without really that hope, it's really, that's that inspiration that takes us through the anxiety, takes us through fear, and pushes us into something that really matters to us. And boy, to not have hope, that is just, it's a very isolating and scary place to be.
Yeah, yeah, and there is no light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
John, let's talk about pressure to passion, because as we talk about going for things that matter to us and being grateful for all the amazing opportunities that we're given, we can feel pressure to really perform or to, you know, be good enough, just all of those things. How do you anchor in taking your pressure to really passion?
Yeah, look, that's a great one as well. You know, I realized some time ago that pressure is all created back here inside this universe. It does not come from out there. And if it's appearing to come out there, it's probably because I've told somebody out there that I will do something by a certain date. So it still comes from back here, you know.
Mm.
And so I think it's really, you know, for all of us to learn how to be grounded in who we are and be okay with that. And to start to be honest, because I think that pressure comes from dishonesty. So, for example, if I say to you, I'm going to write an article and I promise you I'll have it to you by Friday morning, I'm telling you that because I think that that's what you think I should do without me ever asking you.
Right.
You know? So I'm being dishonest and I'm telling you, I'm basically, to use a great word that I was discussing this morning, I'm bullshitting you because, you know, I feel like I have to. But instead of just being really honest and saying, look, I'm really so busy, I think I can get it to you by next Wednesday and I'm going to do my level best, but please don't hate me if I'm a couple of days late.
Yeah.
And so you sort of get this sense of, okay, well, that's fair enough. And then you can work with that and I can work with that and we're all okay. But also having the honesty to actually make a call and adjust an agreement.
Mhm.
You know, the number of us that don't do that, it's incredible. And we place this unreal level of importance on things. And it's all coming from our own mind. It's not
Right.
being applied to us. And I remember once there was a famous interview, as you know, one of probably our true national sport in this country is cricket. And most Americans don't understand cricket, you know, and that's fine. But cricket is the meaning of life.
Good to know.
It's a great sport.
Thanks for that small little golden nugget.
And there was a great Australian player back in the 40s and 50s. His name was Keith Miller, and he was an absolute larrikin and a character and tall, ruggedly handsome. But he was also a Spitfire pilot in the Second World War.
Wow.
And the big cricket games of the day were test matches. So they're a 5-day match. And there are really intense struggles played between Australia and England and the other test countries of South Africa, the West Indies, Pakistan, India, New Zealand, Bangladesh. And anyway, he was being interviewed on primetime English television because he was a bit of a hero over there as well, by Michael Parkinson. And Michael Parkinson said to him, tell me about the pressure of test cricket. The pressure must be amazing. And Keith Miller looked at him and he said, pressure? Test cricket? That's not pressure. A Messerschmitt up your ass, that's pressure. So, you know,
All perspective, baby.
You bet. And you know, we do create our own pressure. And And then we blame others for the pressure that we're under. But it comes from just not being realistic and not being honest.
And really being able to anchor in what we're passionate about versus the pressure. Because if we're passionate about, just taking your conversation and writing an article, enjoying the passion of the article that you wanted to write in the first place versus letting that pressure just take all the joy away. And really the gift of being able to do what you love to do.
Yeah, you bet. And it's and thank you for picking that up, because it is so very true. It's because when we do, and sometimes a deadline can be good because it sort of gets you into action,
right?
And that's fine as well. But it's got to be something that we need to be more deliberate about. There's that word again, being deliberate, deciding. And sometimes I will mess around, not write an article. I'll contemplate it in my mind. Writing an article is a good example. And then I know that I'm getting close to a publishing deadline, and somehow that shifts me into another gear.
Right.
And I'll sit down and I'll write 1,000 words in 10, 15 minutes, and it's done. So it's, and I love that. That's, yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, that's the thing. If you create too much pressure, it can kill the passion. And then the quality of the work's not very good then too.
Yeah, you could just feel the difference because it comes from a place of feeling the pressure versus just anchoring in the love and the passion of what you want to be doing and sharing that with the world as something that really matters to you. It becomes more of a job versus something that is really important to you. So definitely want to make sure from, just our conversations that anybody listening really has the ability to take that pressure as an understanding that it matters to us. I mean, for me, anytime I feel pressure, it represents this is really important to me. And being able to transition that from loving the value of the importance and anchoring in the passion of why I love doing it.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. And, as I said, a little bit of pressure can be very, very good.
Yeah.
But
So
it's
John,
when the pressure kills the passion.
Yes. Not a winning strategy, definitely. Yeah, let's talk about being isolated to inclusion. So being isolated is really pulling ourselves out of the game versus having inclusion is really the ability to be involved and belong. So isolated to inclusion, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, again, that's so interesting. It's there's a lot of that right now.
Yes.
And people feeling there's a lot of people struggling because they're working from home. They feel isolated because they're not at work and they can't be around their friends. But maybe that's just a mindset too, because, okay, physical distance is a factor. Physical separation is a factor. But you and I are 10,000 miles apart right now, and we're completely connected and we're enjoying our conversation. And yeah, sure, we can't reach out and hug each other, but that's about all that's missing. And so we can have an attitude that we're separate and we're missing all those things, or we can have an attitude of how amazing is it that we can connect like this from the other side of the planet.
Yeah.
And we can do it every day if we want.
Well, that's the beautiful part of really that inclusion piece, is that focused on what we want to be included in versus what we don't have.
Well, we only have to go back 5 years and there was no Zoom and Skype was a bit rudimentary and you couldn't have a group chat.
Right.
We can seriously have a party right now.
Yes,
we can have, and with my workplace wellbeing initiative at the Global Wellness Institute, all of our meetings, we're spread all over the planet.
Yeah.
And we'll come together as one and we share that time and it's amazing. You couldn't do that 5 years ago.
Well, or even, John, just the ability to change our thinking, because used to we wouldn't have gotten on Zoom and said, hey, let's get everybody from around the world. we would have wanted to convene, which is all fabulous. But it's like now we have the ability, talk about just the connection of being able to monthly, weekly connect. You and I've had the gift, we've never met in person, and just the ability to connect week by week. We've just gotten to know each other. We've shared each other's journey. We've learned about our, the countries, what's happening in those countries. And all of a sudden we're so connected because we've cared enough just to make sure that it wasn't about being isolated. And instead it was about how can we really learn from this moment of being separated.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit like I could walk out into my lounge room and say, well, this room is empty. I can walk in here and look at my computer screen and say, but that room is full.
Exactly.
How do we define the room, And it was always, I think David Frost said once that television is that wonderful medium where we are entertained in our lounge rooms by people who we would never have in our lounge rooms.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. And I think that also the negativity around COVID and the lockdowns and that sort of thing has distracted us from really fully valuing this that we have right here, right now, because it is extraordinary. I'm thinking I've got a Facebook page that I set up some years ago. It's just called Toomey. The Toomey clan originated in County Cork in Ireland. And now there are hundreds of Toomeys on that page, and they're sharing all sorts of amazing stuff. And I'm thinking about inviting them all to come onto a Zoom.
Ah, love that. Yeah. Well done. It's party time.
Yeah, you bet. And I'm sure being Irish, there'll be a lot of beer consumed. But it's like that wasn't possible a few years ago.
Yeah.
And if we look at, and I reckon some people are looking at Zoom and Teams and those things as something that has been inflicted upon them, as opposed to a gift that they now have access to.
Yes, what a gift, because wow, just the technology of what we've been able to do, how all of us have had jobs. I mean, our work has continued and we've been able to really, I love being able to look into each other's different homes and, meet their dogs and meet their children. And, just from a heart connection, we've just connected in such a different way versus leaving all of that behind and going to work and somewhat putting on our work uniform, showing up in that way, and now being able to be so much in a different space and just enjoy that connection.
Yeah, it's pretty special, isn't it?
It is special. So I want to talk about performance to preparation. So very much in terms of from a sport perspective or from a work perspective, a lot of times our mindset can be on the performance, and really being able to redirect that mindset from performance anchored into preparation, because we know that through sports, the more preparation we have, the performance will be a reflection of how much we've prepared. And so many times in life, we don't necessarily value that preparation component. And I really respect the stats in sports, how 90% of sports is all about preparation, practice, practice, practice. 10% is about game time and really that performance. And you go into the workplace and it's the opposite. It's like 10% preparation and 90% meetings and performance from that perspective. And it really makes the experience so different. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's like I had a very special experience back in the early 80s because I got to go to the 49ers and I spent a few weeks just hanging around, observing, talking. The conditioning coordinator there became a good friend. And I was watching Joe Montana one day and he was standing there with a football and he was holding it up like this and dropping it and then recatching it again with his hand, slapping his hand down on top of it. And I thought he was doing some sort of party trick, And I tried it and I've got a big hand and I could do it sometimes, but I dropped it other times. But he was nowhere near as big as me. And the snap sound as he grabbed that football on the way down each time was amazing. And he never dropped one of them. I said, why do you do that? And he said, because in a game, I cannot afford to drop the football.
Mm.
And he said that snap that comes back pretty quick. And he goes, and that was the level to which he prepared. He was amazing, you know, and when he went out in the field, he was so confident in himself because his preparation was so great. But see, he was performing under a spotlight the whole time. Most of us in our work, we're not performing under a spotlight. So we can slide into a bit of mundane and we can sort of cruise a little bit and we can do 70% of our best work. And that's fine. You can get away with that. You can score your pay packet each week and do whatever. But I reckon that at some level in that, we're degrading our own moral code because we have an agreement to be our best and to deliver. And then when we slip out of that place and we stop being at our best and start cruising a little bit, then we're in breach of that agreement. And at some point, that money that we get paid is going to be a little bit of a yucky feeling about it. And I reckon it's when we get into that place that we start spending more than we need to spend because part of us wants to get rid of that money.
It's an interesting perspective.
Yeah. And so it's really for all of us, you know, our moral code isn't something that gets delivered to us and, you know, somebody polishes it for us once a week. We're going to polish it ourselves every day, and that's hard work. And so, yeah, that real taking time to prepare, if you've got a meeting, doing the research, doing the reading the night before or whatever it is, that thing that we need to do, or if we've got to write some content for the website, instead of writing something that's sexy, like do the work to find out some really interesting stuff that's going to really engage that reader and bring more attention to the company's website or whatever it is that we're doing. You know, it's or even, you know, the construction worker who decides to go to bed at 8 p.m. instead of watching a TV show and going to bed at 10 p.m. That's preparation.
Yeah.
You know, so critical. But you're right. As athletes, we view it as preparation. Non-athletes, we perhaps don't view it as preparation.
Well, and John, the interesting component of that is that we start to become, if we, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, if when we were really prepared and engaged, we were performing in that 8, 9, or 10 zone. And then we just start slipping a little bit and think it's no big deal. And pretty soon we're in the 6 or 7 zone. It's hard to break out of that. And all of a sudden that just becomes our norm. It becomes our habit. Also, who we hang out with really influences us from a perspective of, are we hanging out and investing in people that are committed to preparation and are committed to living in that 8, 9, and 10 zone? Or are we hanging out with people that don't have the same moral code or the same standard of excellence, and then blaming it somewhat on something else or someone else when we don't get the performance that we really wanted or the outcome that we wanted, knowing that, you know, did we really put the preparation in to get the result that we wanted?
Yeah, exactly. So true. And, you know, blame is a great fallback position, isn't it?
Yeah. It's another just skill that really steals away so much joy. If we're just talking about just the power of joy and loving life and loving what we're doing and embracing just all of these things we're talking about, action, anxiety, passion, pleasure, you know, just all of this. If we can anchor in joy, it feels so different when we're in the struggle or when we're in the discipline or when we're choosing that greatness versus choosing the not so fabulous. If it's based in joy, it's a game changer.
Oh, you bet. And it's so interesting because, you know, like it's a real red flag for us. As soon as we feel the urge to blame somebody else, that's such a red flag to say, hang on a minute, look at what I'm doing here. You know, what have I got to do to get my juice back?
And just my passion and my connection to what matters to me, that standard of excellence that I'm committed to versus just the easy way.
Yeah. Yeah, you bet. So interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, John, this has been a beautiful conversation about from change to champion. Thank you for your just words of wisdom, your gift of showing up week by week. I'm very grateful for all the hope that you've given me and our listeners and our team. And just thank you for you and everything that you've been committed to doing at such a level of excellence.
Well, thank you, Colette. It's been an absolute joy. I've looked forward to our chats each week, and I'm going to have to find something else to fill the void next week now.
Well, to be continued. We'd love to connect with you as we go through whatever our next season is and really be able to anchor into that well-being. So John, thank you so much for all the gifts that you've given us during this series.
Thank you, Colette. It's beautiful. Good
Okay,
luck,
team.
everybody.
Thank you. Team, it's up to you. Go out and win your well-being. Be a champion for the change that matters to you. And just connect to being for you and being for the people that are in your life. Thank you so much for listening and being part of our team. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Colette. Thanks, everybody.